Hello, everyone. My name is Mary, and today I have some thoughts and reflections on the topic of fear. And I have a little story and maybe a little tarot card reading to help illuminate the subject. And the story starts in an interesting way. So here's how a sheepdog helped illuminate the subject of fear in my mind a little bit. So I clicked on this video that happened across my YouTube feed about a sheepdog. Now, I do think border collies are beautiful, but I don't have dogs and I don't do enough dog-related research on the internet to make YouTube think that, I should be watching dog videos. However, everyone should watch this dog video because it was just beautiful. So the video starts with the sheep herder with his dog in his RV or his four-wheeler. He pulls up to this field, and it's a huge field filled with sheep. There's like, I don't know, 100 sheep or more maybe in this field. And he gives a command to his dog, and this beautiful border collie leaps out of the four-wheeler and runs into the field and makes a perimeter, a border around the field, and all the sheep clump into the center. And then the sheep herder gives another command, and the dog starts walking the sheep to the corner of the field where there's an open gate, and manages to get all the sheep through the gate in really quick. Like the whole video was, I think, 2 minutes or less. It was really quick. The amount of time it took the dog to do this was very impressive. It was very impressive. And so I was so taken aback by the beauty of this thing. And side note, I was kind of jealous of that dog because here's this dog living her purpose. She's doing her work. She knows her purpose. She was bred for this, and she's doing it. And to watch this dog just do so beautifully and effortlessly, what she was bred to do, what she was made to do, is kind of beautiful. I wish I were doing that. I wish I were, doing my purpose with such ease as this dog. But that's just the side note. Anyway, goodness, where was I? So I was just so taken back by this that I looked at some more videos on this man's channel, and I happened across a video where he's answering questions. And so then he said something that really shocked me. He said that the reason the dogs are able to do this, the reason the dogs and the sheep work so well together, and is because of they're not friends. It's because of the predator-prey relationship that makes it work. The sheep aren't moving because they agree with the dog. The sheep are moving because they're responding to an instinctual fear of the dog. It's actually fear that's making the sheep move the way they do. However, the sheep herder said, don't you worry. I don't want the sheep to get legitimately afraid. He doesn't want the sheep to get panicky. It's just a low-level discomfort that is making this whole thing work. And I thought to myself, wow, those sheep, they probably think they're free. They probably think if they were able to reflect on this, if they had consciousness the way we do, they probably would think to themselves, yeah, I'm free. I can go where I want to. I'm not tied up. I'm not harnessed. I'm not, I'm in this beautiful field just having fun. And I just feel like standing over there. I don't prefer to stand over here anymore, or near that dog. I want to stand over here. And so the sheep probably, would think, if they did, that it's just preference, that they're not afraid. They're just preferring to do something else. And I thought to myself, how often are we humans manipulated in just the same way, where we are moved, our desires, our feelings, our actions are being manipulated by this low-level fear, masking itself as, you should prefer this over that. Just go stand over there with those people, or that movement, or buy that product, where we are sort of manipulated in a way by our fears, but it's not obvious. It's just this preference. Now, the sheep, of course, are under the care of their owners and the sheep herder, and certainly the sheep herder wants no harm to come to the sheep. He wants them happy and healthy and living their best life. But the people that manipulate human beings oftentimes don't have our best interest at heart. And it made me realize, that so often in our lives, there's these low-level fears that are manipulating us in so many ways. Fear of growing older, fear of not having enough money, fear of not being accepted, fear of sometimes just the fear of being still, of not having stimulation, of just being with yourself, fear of loneliness, so many fears of various diseases, fear of not looking a certain way, not being accepted, fears of there's a laundry list of fears that the politicians are making us afraid of. There's so many. There's so many fears, and some of them are legitimate. Like, you should be afraid of, not following the rules of the road. Like, you should definitely be afraid of veering off into oncoming traffic. Be afraid of that. That's a healthy fear. Maybe the fear of what would happen to you if you stopped eating healthy and exercising regularly. Yeah, that's a fear that may be driving you in the right direction. But there's so many other fears that I think we all as a human society are responding to that aren't very healthy for us. There's fear of speaking out. Maybe, you want to speak out, speak your truth, or be a little different. And you're afraid of what people might think if they knew your real opinions on stuff. Maybe you're starting to doubt things or think differently about things, and you're not ready to voice it because you're afraid of how you'll be perceived. Maybe you're afraid of, maybe you have been manipulated into thinking that you have to look a certain way, and you're very afraid of what would happen if you didn't look that way, or buy the products, or get the clothes, or whatever it is that you need to do. Like, I know that there's probably so many fears that I think are preferences. Like, I prefer this over this other thing. But maybe just like that sheepdog, it's not a preference, it's actually a fear. And what would happen if we stood in the presence of our fears? Like, certain fears, definitely, like I said, certain fears you need to take seriously. But there are certain fears that, maybe you don't have to take seriously. Maybe the fear of being alone. Maybe the fear of, like I said, speaking out. Maybe the fear of, investing in your own talents and gifts, doing something, like putting your art out there, or your music, or your whatever your creations are, or taking a chance on a person, or taking a chance on, maybe there's fears that are keeping us locked into this, really rigid system. And maybe we don't need to really harbor those fears. Maybe we need to look them in the eye and just stand there. What if the sheep just stood there and said, I'm not moving, What would happen? Probably nothing. Most likely the sheep would not get hurt. The sheep would not get, the dog is certainly not going to attack the sheep. That the sheep herder would never let that happen. Most likely the sheep herder would have to come and coerce the sheep to move in another way. But nothing serious would happen. And I think if we just stood our ground in the presence of our fears, that we might see that those fears don't have the bite that we thought they did. Maybe we've been fooled into believing that they do. So my question for me, and I know I have tons of these fears running my life in various covert ways, But my question for me and for you and for all of us is what are the fears, those low level, slightly uncomfortable feelings that are, we think that are preferences but are actually fears? How many fears are actually running your life, are actually, kind of dictating your decisions? How often are we responding to fear? I'm reminded of in the Bible, and I'm not preaching the Bible to you. It's a book. It's a book about a teacher that I happen to really like a lot. I think he's got some good things to say. But Jesus said a lot. Do not be afraid. This is a message that shows up more than once. Be not afraid. A lot, like when angels show up sometimes, they have that message too. Be not afraid. Because I think that humans we're so susceptible to fears, and they do feel real. They feel legitimate. They feel like, yeah, I definitely don't want to stand there in the presence of my fears. It's very uncomfortable. But what if we did? And think about somebody in your life who has done that, who has stood up for their, stood up for themselves and maybe encountered some friction or encountered pushback because they weren't going to be afraid. Think about somebody like that, and you will be inspired. So that is the story. And now we're going to move on to just a little tarot card reading. I've got one of my decks here, and so I'm just going to pull a card and see what the angel's advice is. So I'm looking for, whoa, that one jumped out. Let's see what that's going to be. Looking for the angel's advice on how to manage fear, how to think about or reframe fear. Okay, we got two. So this one popped out first, so I'm really curious what this one's going to be. Okay, so the Eight of Pentacles is all about mastery. And the message I'm getting is that you've got this. You've got this. The angels want us to know that when it comes to facing your fears, you've got this. You can do this. Just keep doing it. Just keep building. One baby step at a time. Conquering your fears, recognizing where they're lurking in your life. The work is something that is constantly being done. And a lot of times, I think athletes have said this, they learn more from their failures than their victories. That during those times when you feel like you've failed, when you responded to your fears in a way that maybe you're not proud of, those are the moments you're going to think about. And those are the moments that are going to fuel you going forward to really make a different decision. So that's the first message. The Hanged Man. Perfect. So the Hanged Man is all about surrender. The idea here is surrender. I'm not saying we should surrender to certain fears. Like if someone's hurting you in your life, don't surrender to that. Maybe you should pick and choose which fears, use your common sense and use your heart and your head together to guide you. But the Hanged Man's message is surrender. Like, I see this guy's story as someone who is unable to move forward because he's unable to move forward. He's stopped. He can't move forward until he gets some enlightenment, until he sees his situation anew. Maybe he's been here before. Maybe he's been at the crossroads of this point in his life multiple times. Maybe he's sort of encountered similar situations, and now is the moment where he's just going to surrender and allow himself to just be here, to just be in the situation. Maybe he is trapped in some way, but the key is we don't know. All we know is that he's surrendered to this in a very peaceful and mindful way. And so the angel's message is that facing your fears is sort of like a surrender to them. They have a lesson to teach you. They have something to give to you. They have something to bring to you. Your fears can expand your mind, can open up your world. So the pentacles is like the physical world. Your world can just open up. You can receive more. You can do more. If suddenly you found out that the fears that you were harboring were all just illusions, suddenly all these doors would open up in your life. You'd think to yourself, wow, I have so much more I can do, because I was afraid of going all these different places. I was afraid of this and that, and joining that group, and I was afraid of them, and I was afraid of this, and I was afraid of whatever. But when you realize that those fears are illusionary, suddenly things are going to open up. I feel like we need one more card. So this one is going to be advice. So angels, give us a card that might help us think about some advice moving forward. Is that the card? All right, we have another 8. So this is the 8 of Wands. This is moving forward. This is moving forward. So the advice is, use the momentum in your life, move. Use the momentum in your life. And the momentum we're talking about is Wands, which is fire energy, which is spirit. So if your spirit wants to move forward, if your spirit is like, let's go, let's do this, let's face this, let's stand here, let's whatever, just allow the momentum that your spirit is giving you to just move you forward. Trust that. Trust it. It's interesting. It would appear as though we have 2 very contradictory cards. We've got a movement card and a non-movement card. So in the overarching scheme of things, surrendering to a fear may disguise it, may actually look like moving towards it, may be a movement. It might be a movement that you have to do or say or think, or just something in your life that you're ready to just pick up the phone or send that email, or just be like, put that post up there of your opinions, or share this, share a blog that you believe in but you think other people may judge you for. Allow your spirit to say, yep, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I mean, this guy's doing something. We've got 2 cards about like movement and doing things, but the major arcana card, the Hanged Man, is all about, it's about surrender. It's about not escaping your situation. It's about surrendering to it, gaining a new perspective on it, and then taking action in a way that you may not have done before. And the angels want you to know, you've got this. You can do it. You can do it. You're already doing it. You've overcome so many fears. Most likely, you're going to overcome so many more. So that is the reading and the message. And if you have any thoughts about fear and any reflections, let me know. For me personally, thinking about this has been helpful in a way, because I often think about the dog and the sheep. In various times in my life, I'll be like, oh, I'm doing that thing, I'm doing that thing where I move away from something that I'm, that I don't want. And I have to question. It's just a moment to stop the brain from, firing away in the way it always has, and asking myself, is this fear? Is this fear that's making me do this? And is this a fear that I actually agree with? So it's like, it's a way to just slow down the mind and start thinking anew. I have no mastery, I think, over fear or any of it, but I just wanted to share this story, and I hope you benefit from it. And I don't remember if I said, I always end with a prayer. I don't remember if I prayed yet. So my prayer for me and you, and for all of us, regardless of your religion, regardless of your spiritual orientation, is that you take these words to heart. Be not afraid. Amen, amen, amen. God bless you. I'll see you next time. Bye.